Walt Disney World and Universal Orlando are two of the top vacation destinations in the Orlando area, and we love them both for very different reasons. However, when it comes to the nitty-gritty and some specific details with certain rides, we may have some preferences between them.
And that's what we're here to discuss today, as we are going to look at 5 different ride categories between Disney World and Universal across the 7 parks that make up those 2 areas and see which of them maybe we prefer over the other. And there could be even some surprises for us as longtime Disney people who have only been to Universal one time. So let's go ahead and get into it in our very first edition of a series we hope to continue for a long time of a theme park battle.
So before we dive too deep into any of those rides, let's go ahead and talk about the 5 categories that we're going to use to break this down. The first one we're going to be looking at is going to be the most popular rides in these parks. Then we're also going to look at the carousels. We'll be comparing the dark rides, big kid coasters, and then we'll also be looking at the railroads.
And after we take a look at all of these, not only are we going to get judging from ourselves, but we'll also have special guests at the very end of this to give their opinion as well too, because listening to just 2 people on this matter may not be the end-all be-all opinion that you're looking for. This is just a little bit of help to help you decide where maybe to go the next time that you are in the Orlando area. Well, with all that out of the way, now that we know exactly what we're going to be looking at, let's go into our first matchup. We're going to be looking at the most popular rides at Walt Disney World and Universal Orlando, that being Guardians of the Galaxy, Cosmic Rewind in Epcot, and Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure at Islands of Adventure. All right, so this matchup here we've got is a real big bout of heavy hitters. You've got Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind out at Epcot, which is one of the more popular, also newest rides at Disney World, combining beloved Marvel heroes with the big thrills a lot of people seek. And then Hagrid's, which pretty much does exactly the same thing, combining beloved stories of Harry Potter with big thrills. But where these 2 really stand out is that they are story-driven coasters, where the story behind them adds to the thrill and the enjoyment that everybody has with them.
So going ahead and diving straight into what we personally preferred, I loved both of these. And so it's really been a struggle for me to actually pick which one is my favorite. But I'm going to be honest, as much as I love Guardians of the Galaxy, my pick has to go to Hagrid's. I do not like screen-based rides unless it's something that really, truly adds to the attraction itself. And for some rides at Disney, I feel like it does. For example, Flight of Passage. However, Guardians, I don't think the screens necessarily enhance anything. I think it's more the coaster that gives me the thrill factor and the music and how the music can change every time, which I love, but I don't need the screens. So having the screens almost detracts for me, but Hagrid's has the thrill factor and it has those animatronics. And again, as a classic Disney person, I love the animatronics in there. So I have to give this one to Hagrid's.
And just so you guys know, we have no clue which way we are going to go, and that is the honest truth.
We haven't talked about this
We
before.
didn't talk about it at all. We kind of have inklings of what we're going to do, but I kind of know just because of Jen's love for animatronics that she was going to go Hagrid, and I think I'm going to surprise her with this one because I'm going Guardians of the Galaxy on this one. As much as I love Hagrid and I love Harry Potter, the books, the movies, everything, and introducing that into our family, Guardians of the Galaxy for me is just the biggest thrill across either of the parks. The music selection, as I love 80s music, most of that in there really gets me going. I still remember the very first time we got Everybody Wants to Rule the World, and I belted out a big yes, because not only is it one of my favorite songs ever, it also completed the playlist for me. But with that in mind, I will choose Guardians of the Galaxy, because there's nothing like you come around that last loop around the moon as the ride's about to end and you throw your hands up and you just let out the biggest scream because you just had one of the most fun experiences in a theme park in your life. So with that decision, we actually split 1-1 midway through this right now. So after one round of this, we are now looking at a tie between Disney World and Universal. And Jen, let's tell them what we've got coming up next.
So next is going to be our carousel category. This is the most classic, beloved attraction style for a lot of people, a lot of families especially, because younger kids can do a lot of these traditional carousels. At Disney World, we'll be looking at Prince Charming Regal Carousel, and at Universal in Epic, we're going to be looking at the Constellation Carousel. So let's go ahead and dive into our first matchup with the carousels. Prince Charming Regal Carousel, very traditional, more rite of passage style, something everyone in the family can enjoy and do together. It's one of the oldest attractions actually in the park, with a lot of the horse pieces being salvaged from other theme parks around the United States, hand painted, hand carved, so a very classic there. When you hop over to Epic Universe, you're gonna take a look at the Constellation Carousel, which is kind of like a carousel 2.0. It's like the new version.
Yeah.
Unlike a traditional carousel where it's connected at the top and the bottom, these ones are only connected at the bottom. And that's because they do have a little bit more height to them than a traditional carousel would. You also are going to have an additional semi-thrill factor here, where some areas of the carousel itself have another little mini carousel, and they kind of spin slowly, nothing like a scrambler, but slowly themselves as well. So it adds a little bit of a thrill factor there too.
Yeah, and this actually was probably one of the easier matchups for me to select in this case. I'm going with Prince Charming Regal Carousel, just because the Constellation Carousel, it was fun, but we got one of those ones, at least I did and our oldest did, where we didn't really get the added thrill to it. We saw the ride before us, it went backwards actually. So it's a wicked ride. It's almost like a DJ spinning the carousel out there. But we didn't get any of that thrill with it. So it kind of took away from the experience that we had. And that was by far, in my opinion at least, I don't know if Jen feels the same way, the worst line we waited in all of Universal. It felt like it took 30 to 45 minutes to get through that one, and it was a posted 20-minute wait. That's a rough one to wait through. So for me, Prince Charming takes it just because I've had better experiences with it. You always try to find Cinderella's horse on there too. If you haven't, we're gonna throw in an image right now to show you a little bit of a hint how to find that one. And sometimes you'll find Disney characters riding this too, with Anastasia and Drizella hopping on. And that led to one of the most magical moments we've ever had at Disney World. And for those reasons, it gets a little personal into the touchy feels for why I like this one so much, but I'm gonna go with Prince Charming.
I'm also going to go with Prince Charming for this one. It was actually one of the hardest ones for me to decide between for this matchup because I just like a classic carousel. And I loved the upgrades to the 2.0, but I have to second the fact that the line itself was really the longest and most difficult one to wait in that day. It also took a little bit away that we saw that the previous carousel ride went backwards and we didn't get to experience that. Our youngest and I actually got to ride on a tandem carousel, which was really cool. She enjoyed that. I did too, because the carousel at Epic Universe does have tandem seats where you can ride with your younger kids instead of having to stand behind them. So that was cool. But we didn't necessarily, we also got a more stationary animal, so it wasn't as thrilling for us. Perhaps if we rode it again and we got on one of those moving carousel animals, or we were riding backwards on one of those DJ style mix-up ones, maybe it would change things, but I have to go with the classic and my love for just the traditional, the fact that it's all hand-carved, hand-painted. The historian in me just absolutely adores that.
Well, now that we are going to take another look at our scoreboard here, we've got 2-0 in favor of the carousels for Disney World, and still that even split up at the top for our most popular rides. So now we're gonna go into the midway point of our competition. We're gonna move into probably the most classic form of ride that there is in a theme park. We're gonna talk about some dark rides with beloved literature characters. We're gonna look at the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh at Magic Kingdom and Cat in the Hat at Seuss Landing in Islands of Adventure. The dark ride, the most classic form of ride that there is in a theme park. And no, it doesn't mean dark in terms of like there's low lighting or anything like that, but it's more just your encapsulated indoor story rides where it gives the book report style of what happened in the literature-based thing it's based on in most cases. You're thinking Winnie the Pooh and Cat in the Hat like we're talking about today, also Peter Pan, Little Mermaid, other things like that. So with the ones we've got today, Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh itself was controversial when it first came around in Magic Kingdom because it replaced the beloved Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, which you can still find in Disneyland, and there is a cute little nod to Mr. Toad handing off the deed to Owl inside Owl's house as it's coming down in the ride, if you ever turn around to look for that. And then Cat in the Hat, where Cat in the Hat, I mean, who probably hasn't read this as a kid at some point? This is based off of the book, not the movie that came out about 15 to 20 years ago, and there's actually a brand new one coming later this year in 2026. But this is based off of the book, taking you into that world of what happened to the kids on that crazy day where a cat in a hat with his thing 1 and thing 2 came into the world and caused all sorts of chaos.
So looking at this matchup, I kind of had to debate a little bit between the two, but there wasn't really a whole lot of debate. Pooh Bear is really my heart and soul. I feel very connected to Pooh Bear, all the stories of Winnie the Pooh from my childhood and beyond. So Pooh Bear is going to take the cake for me. Cat in the Hat was very cute. I rode it with our youngest a couple of times when our oldest was riding rides that our youngest could not. She wasn't tall enough for, and she adored it. And I thought it was really cute. It is well done. It's a little trippy in some parts, but there are a couple of other rides, you know, in all of the parks that they can get a little trippy. But it does not hold the same place of nostalgia in my heart as Winnie the Pooh and those characters. So that's what's really going to make it for me.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Jen on this one. This was, I already mentioned with the carousel, the second easiest one I had. This is by far the easiest one. I went on Cat in the Hat one time with our youngest, as Jen mentioned, while our oldest was off switching between us, riding some of the Harry Potter attractions. It was cute. It was obviously, it shows its age is one of the big detriments to me, is like it was obviously made 15 to 20 years ago. And trippy isn't the right word for it. Nightmare fuel. That is what I expect out of it. The Cat in the Hat just kind of hanging out in the window, which you're going to be seeing because I'm going to post that video in here right now. That's a little creepy in my opinion. Whereas Winnie the Pooh, unless you've ever read the Kingdom Keepers books and you know what I'm talking about when you get into the flood scene where you can get a little creeped out, you gotta make sure that you take your little ones on this one because it is by far one of the most beloved attractions we've got at Disney World. It's great as a first attraction for little kids. It was for one of ours. And for that reason, I've got to go with Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah. So we're going to take a look at our scores again. We were split in our first category. We were 2-0 with Disney, and again 2-0 with Disney here in our dark rides attractions as well. Now we're going to be moving into our big kid coasters. So these aren't going to necessarily be big kid, like teenage style coasters like Guardians and Hagrid's, but they are more not exactly the first coaster that you want your kids to be riding either. It's not like a Buckbeak or a Goofy's Barnstormer. This is going to be somewhere in between, kind of your second or maybe even third coaster.
You've graduated from the little ones of Barnstormer and such. Okay, I'm ready for a little bit more thrill.
Right. So that's what we're going to be looking at here. We're going to be taking a look at Slinky Dog Dash in Hollywood Studios for Walt Disney World. And we're going to be taking a look at
Hiccup's Wing Gliders over at Epic Universe.
With Slinky Dog, you are quite literally riding Slinky Dog, the character from the beloved Toy Story films. You are basically shrunken down to the size of a toy and you're in Andy's backyard. There's a lot of other little hints as you're in the queue looking at all kinds of other pieces that are toys in the backyard, things that you might have seen in the movies. But this one's really cool, really classic, all outdoors, and you kind of explore a good bit of Andy's backyard. Then when you're looking at Hiccups, you are going to be feeling that flight feeling alongside Toothless, which is another really cool look at it.
This was probably the hardest decision I had across all of our categories that we were choosing today. Hagrid's and Guardians was right up there because they both give off that sense of thrill. But these just take you into things from your childhood or you've experienced through your child's eyes in the form of How to Train Your Dragon that just hit you in the heartstrings as you're riding these. For me, I tend to lean more onto Hiccup's Wing Gliders. I don't know if Jen's going to have the same decision as I do on this one. However, we both agree, I think, that this was by far the best ride we did at Epic Universe on the one time we've been back at Christmas time last year. We did this twice because we happened to get one of the very vaunted Black Express passes from Epic Universe after Battle of the Ministry went down while we were on it. And with that, you're able to ride anything in the park through the Express line. So we did this once in the afternoon, we did it once at night. And the main reason why I'm picking this one is nothing beats that feel of flying like listening to the music of How to Train Your Dragon as you are coasting over the water through Berk. It was magnificent. I cannot wait to go back and do this one again. It is the one driving force that makes me want to continue to go back to Epic Universe.
I will have to agree with that, actually. As much as I love Slinky Dog Dash and the toys from, the characters from Toy Story, they're just so beloved in my heart, nostalgic. We have come to love all the characters in How to Train Your Dragon as well because of our kids. Those stories themselves hold a special place in our hearts for our family. And the thrill of this ride, not just the coaster itself, some of the animatronics that were in it, the ability to do it twice, which is definitely going to be helpful if you get to do it more than once in a day. But the initial feeling that we came off with in the afternoon is what really made us want to go back and do it again at night in the dark. And for me, I have to agree, it's because of how well that music is synced to the ride. If you have seen the movies, you'll know that part we're talking about when Hiccup actually starts flying with Toothless, and you can almost feel it in the music. Well, when you're riding the ride, you can quite literally feel it, and it is so incredible. You can't even express how it feels.
The lifts come as you lift, the dips come as you fly down towards the water. It matches seamlessly with the feelings you're having with that test flight score.
It is by far was definitely my favorite at Epic, actually rivaled my favorite potentially for Universal Orlando altogether. Still debating that in my head, but we'll definitely take this category for me.
Yeah, and that now actually makes the first clean sweep for us at a Universal ride, as now Universal takes the 2-0 win in that one against Slinky Dog. We still love Slinky Dog, though. Don't get that wrong. And now we're going to head into our final category. We're going to be taking a look at where we're going to compare railroads between the two destinations. One, a more traditional railroad in the sense, as we're going to look at the Walt Disney World Railroad based out in the Magic Kingdom, and then the Hogwarts Express, one of the more sought-after destinations that anybody's going to take a look at Universal between the two parks. The Walt Disney World Railroad has been a beacon of the entrance at Walt Disney World and transport around the Magic Kingdom ever since the park first opened in 1971. Whereas now you've got the Hogwarts Express at Universal that traverses between Universal Orlando and Islands of Adventure, which you do need a 2-park ticket to be able to do that one. Do not make that mistake hoping you'll get on that ride, because they will not let you do it if you do not have a ticket for both parks.
You gotta have that park-to-park specific ticket to be able to go back and forth. They do check.
Yes, and what's a better feeling as a Harry Potter fan or someone who is even a casual Harry Potter fan than boarding the Hogwarts Express, going through King's Cross Station to platform 9 3/4, or on the other side, going through Hogsmeade.
Looking at this matchup, it was really actually difficult for me. I didn't think it was going to be that difficult initially, as I'm not as much of a Harry Potter fan as my husband and our oldest daughter are. I didn't get into the books when I was a kid, I know, but it was not my end-all be-all. But I really enjoyed getting to go on the Hogwarts Express. However, the classic, again, for being able to just ride a railroad and wave to people as you pass by, even if they don't wave back to you, being able to take in the air, seeing everything all around you, I have to personally go with the Walt Disney World Railroad. The history behind it too just makes it that much more special for me, that it was something that Walt Disney himself was really passionate about. He had his own train in his own backyard, and that this is just something that's so beloved and ingrained in the Walt Disney Company makes it even more special for me.
Ironically enough, both of these operate in what is called shuttle mode right now, where they just go back and forth, which is why, depending on what station you are in for the Hogwarts Express, you might see it come in backwards because of the way that the ride system works. We're not going to go into the behind the scenes and ruin the magic for you guys, but just be aware that it's because it operates in shuttle mode. The Magic Kingdom Railroad is doing the same thing right now because of all the construction going on beyond Frontierland in preparation for Cars and Villains Land coming within the next 3 to 4 to 5 years or so. Because of that, it's really hard to say that the Walt Disney World Railroad is a better experience or a more sought after experience at this time. Whereas the Hogwarts Express, you get to see beloved characters, you get to run into the Dementors, Fred and George, you get to see Hagrid. But even with that, I am still gonna go with the Walt Disney World Railroad because it is open air, like Jen said. The ability to wave at people, see nature, see behind areas of the Walt Disney World area that maybe you don't often see. And frankly, for me, I'm very excited about Villains Land and what's going to be coming back there, and the way that the berm is going to go around the tracks with Villains Land and seeing all that, see what happens in that area. I'm very excited. The Hogwarts Express is probably going to be very similar throughout the years. The Walt Disney World Railroad has had a lot of changes and making that a very interesting ride every single time you do it. We've come to the end of our opinions, more on that in a second, and taking a look at our scores after this. We had a few clean sweeps in there with the railroad, hiccups, the dark rides as well too, as naming a couple there. But we had very close contests in this. Even if it was a 2-0 decision, by no means does that mean the other ride we talked about is less than what we chose, because these are all great attractions, just more of a, if we really had to choose, where would we wait in line for? This is going to be what we would do so for.
Or if we were riding something multiple times a day and both were right there at our fingertips within that moment, which one will we probably be choosing to wait in line for, or use that lightning lane or that express pass for?
Yeah.
Which one would be more worth it in that moment?
Yeah, because not only is it worth time, it could also potentially be worth money. Where are you going to spend your day in a park? How far can your budget go to make sure you experience these attractions?
Now, we mentioned earlier, it's not just about our opinions too, because as adults, we're clearly going to have different opinions than your family. Your family may have opinions because you're including in your kids and factoring in what they want to do in the day. And we do that too. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at our special guests now, our special guests being our kids, and they wanted to share their opinions with you guys on these categories as well. Take a look at some of the opinions of our kids for these specific 5 categories. You got to hear what we had to say, and it may be similar to what you at home are thinking. It may be very different from what you at home are thinking. You could tell even we had a little bit of differences every now and then, and our kids definitely had some different opinions, potentially because of that age difference, their interests, the kinds of things that they've been watching and reading just because of all of that. And that could be very reflective of what you're seeing at home too. So just keep that in mind. Hopefully all of this will be something that can help you to be able to better plan for your trip, to know whether Universal Studios Orlando or if Walt Disney World is going to be the better location for your family, or some kind of split stay if you're doing like we had to do and trying to appease 2 very different age range kids. all of those things can factor in because there are a lot of different pieces to consider when you're looking at these major theme parks and resorts.
With that being said, that's actually going to do it for us today. We've opined a lot here about all our differences between the rides, what we would spend our time on. But now we're going to leave it up to you. Let us know what you all at home would choose in some of these categories. Where would you want to spend a day on your next vacation to the Orlando area? Disney World or Universal? We would love to hear from you and, of course, interact with you and get some of your opinions as well. We hope that you enjoyed this video from the Disney pros. We're going to keep pumping things out throughout 2026, both Disney and Universal, so keep a lookout for that. Make sure that you like and subscribe to this video, and also make sure you hit that bell for notifications the next time we get videos out. We're trying to operate on an every other week schedule right now with just life as it is and how busy that can be. We want to start building up to a routine. So we hope you join us for that. You can also follow us on Instagram for more content too. Well, if you made it this far, thank you for watching, and we hope we hear from your opinions too in the comments below. And until next time, that's Jen, I'm Zach, we're the Disney Pros. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.